If I could rewind time, I'd stop myself at the front gate. Not because I didn't want to go to the reunion, no, I'd been starving for normal, but because the moment my shoe touched that cracked stone walkway, the air felt wrong. Like the whole day was holding its breath. Like the trees were pretending to sway casually while something sharp hid behind their leaves. And I still walked in. I still followed the sound of laughter and clinking plates, the sweet smoke of barbecue, the loud music trying too hard to be cheerful. I still smiled until my cheeks hurt. Because that's what you do at family reunions. You arrive carrying your baggage in invisible suitcases, and you pretend the weight isn't crushing your wrists. Our reunion was at Auntie Farah's farmhouse, an old place with a wide porch and a yard big enough to host a small wedding. Every year, the same setup. Folding chairs, plastic tables dressed in cheap cloth, paper plates bending under the weight of biryani, kebabs, and too many desserts. Kids running wild like they'd never seen grass before, uncles arguing about politics, aunties gossiping in clusters like they were exchanging secret currency. And in the center of it all, that big oak tree. The oak was our family landmark, the meet here tree, the take photos tree. Its trunk was thick and scarred, like it had survived storms that didn't care who we were. Someone had once tied a ribbon around one of its low branches, red, faded, frayed, and it still hung there, stubborn as a memory nobody wanted to admit was real. I noticed it immediately. That ribbon. It made my stomach tighten, but I didn't know why. I told myself it was nostalgia. I told myself I was just tired. I had barely stepped onto the porch when my mother called out, "There you are." Like I'd been missing for years instead of months. She rushed over, smelling like perfume and anxiety, pulling me into a hug that was too quick to be comforting. "You look thin," she said instantly. "Are you eating properly?" "I'm fine," I said, "because that's what you say." Then she straightened my collar like I was 5 again, her eyes scanning my face as if searching for a crack. "Smile. People will think something is wrong." Something was wrong. But I swallowed it like always. I forced a grin. Okay. As I stepped down into the yard, relatives descended on me like a wave. Hugs, cheek kisses, questions, half jokes that weren't really jokes, comments about my job, my weight, my hair, my age. I floated through it all, laughing at the right moments, nodding at the right times, keeping my voice light so nobody would notice the tremble beneath it. Then I saw my cousin Nadia. Nadia wasn't like the others. She didn't sparkle for attention or use her voice like a weapon disguised as sweetness. She was quieter, watchful. The kind of person who remembered everything you said, even the things you wished you hadn't. She stood near the oak tree, her arms folded, eyes tracking the crowd like she was counting exits. When our eyes met, she didn't smile. She just looked, alarmed. I started walking toward her without thinking, like my body recognized danger before my mind did. Halfway across the lawn, my auntie called my name and waved a camera at me, shouting, "Come, come." Family picture. I lifted a hand to signal 1 minute, but she ignored me and kept yelling, already pulling people into position. Nadia's gaze flicked to the porch, then back to me. Her fingers tightened around her phone. I reached her, breathless. "Hey." She leaned in so close her hair brushed my cheek. Her voice dropped into a whisper that didn't belong in a sunny yard full of laughter. "She has a secret to tell you," Nadia murmured. I blinked. "Who?" Nadia's eyes sharpened. "Not here." My pulse kicked. "Nadia, who?" She swallowed like her throat was full of sand. "Your mother." For a second, I honestly thought I misheard her. "My mother? A secret?" My mother didn't do secrets, she did performances. She did family-friendly versions of the truth. She did silence dressed up as love. "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "My mom tells me everything." Nadia's expression told me exactly what she thought of that. "She doesn't," she said simply. Then she glanced past me, and her face changed, tightened, like a hand closing around a rope. "Listen to me. If she calls you somewhere private, don't go alone." A cold line slid down my spine. Why? Nadia's hand shot out and gripped my wrist. Her fingers were clammy, trembling. Because there are people here who don't want you to know. My mouth went dry. Know what? Her lips parted, like she might finally say it, like she might finally drop the bomb, when a shriek of laughter erupted near the tables and someone yelled her name, Nadia. Come eat. Stop being dramatic. Nadia flinched as if she'd been slapped. She released my wrist quickly, as if touch itself was dangerous. Promise me. She hissed. Promise you won't be alone with her. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to roll my eyes and tell her she'd been watching too many thrillers. But I couldn't. Because the way she looked at me, like she was already mourning something, made my lungs forget how to work. Okay, I said quietly. I promise. Nadia exhaled, sharp and shaky. Good. Then, like she'd said nothing at all, she turned and walked toward the food tables, blending into the reunion noise as if she hadn't just cracked my entire world open with a whisper. I stood there under the oak tree, staring at that faded red ribbon, suddenly aware that the air felt heavier here, like the tree had witnessed too many confessions, like that ribbon wasn't decoration, like it was a warning. My heart was still hammering when my mother called out again, loud and bright. Come. Picture time. I forced my legs to move. The family formed rows like a school photo, elders seated, younger ones standing behind, children shoved into the front where they wriggled and complained. My mother stood near the center, smiling wide, her hand resting possessively on my shoulder the moment I arrived. Stand right here, she said, too sweet, next to me. I felt Nadia's eyes somewhere behind the crowd, burning into my back. Sure, I said, and the word tasted like metal. The camera clicked, people laughed, someone shouted, one more. And the group shifted, jostling, adjusting. My mother's grip on my shoulder tightened. After this, she murmured into my hair, her smile still frozen for everyone else. We need to talk. My blood turned to ice. About what? I asked, trying to sound casual. Her nails pressed through my shirt fabric, sharp as pins. Not here. Nadia's warning flashed in my mind like a siren. Don't go alone. I swallowed hard, forcing a small laugh as if my mother had just told me a funny secret. Okay, I said lightly, loud enough for others to hear. We'll talk. But inside, panic started building, fast and hot, like a match catching paper. Because my mother didn't look nervous. She looked prepared. And as the family began to break apart from the photo, I noticed something I hadn't noticed before. Something that made the yard tilt slightly, like the world had shifted its balance. Near the porch steps, tucked in the shade where the sunlight didn't reach, stood a woman I didn't recognize. She was dressed too neatly for a reunion, her posture too controlled. She wasn't eating or laughing. She wasn't even pretending. She was watching me. And when our eyes met, she didn't look away. She smiled, slowly, like she'd been waiting for this moment longer than I'd been alive. And that was when I realized the secret wasn't just a secret. It was a trap, and the unthinkable, whatever it was, had already begun. I couldn't stop thinking about her, the woman by the porch. Every laugh around me sounded warped, stretched too loud, like noise meant to drown out something important. I kept smiling, nodding, answering questions automatically, but my eyes kept drifting back to the shadows near the steps. She hadn't moved, not to grab food, not to greet anyone, not even to pretend she belonged. She stood there with her hands clasped in front of her, posture rigid, eyes locked on me, as if she were afraid I might disappear. When I looked away, my mother leaned closer. "Don't wander off," she said softly, still smiling for the crowd. "People are watching." That sentence didn't make sense until it did. I followed her gaze, and suddenly I noticed it, the subtle way conversations paused when I passed. The way certain aunties lowered their voices. The way two uncles stopped mid-sentence when I came near, exchanging a look that was sharp with meaning. This reunion wasn't just a gathering. It was an audience. I felt like a performer who'd missed the rehearsal but was expected to hit their mark anyway. I excused myself to grab a drink, desperate for distance. As I reached for a paper cup, Nadia appeared beside me like she'd been summoned by my fear. "You saw her," she said under her breath. My hand shook so badly water sloshed onto the table. "Who is she?" Nadia didn't answer immediately. She scanned the yard, checking who was within earshot. Then she leaned in, her voice barely audible. "She's not supposed to be here." My heart thudded. That's not an answer. Nadia's jaw tightened. She wasn't invited. I glanced back at the porch. The woman had shifted slightly, enough to stay in the shade as the sun moved. Her eyes never left me. "Then why is she here?" I whispered. Nadia swallowed. "Because your mother called her." The cup slipped from my fingers, hitting the ground with a hollow crack. Water soaked into the dirt, darkening it like a spreading bruise. Nadia crouched quickly, pretending to help clean it up. "Listen to me," she murmured urgently. "Whatever happens today, you need to remember something." "What?" "This isn't about love," she said. "It's about control." Before I could ask what she meant, my mother's voice sliced through the air. "There you are," she called, too loud. "I've been looking for you." I straightened slowly. My mother walked toward us, her smile polished, perfect. The kind of smile she wore when she was winning. "Nadia," she said warmly. "Thank you for keeping her company." Nadia stood, her face carefully neutral. "Of course, Auntie." My mother turned to me and slipped her arm through mine, her grip firm. "Come," she said. "We need some privacy." Every muscle in my body screamed no. I glanced at Nadia, panic flaring. She caught my look and gave the smallest shake of her head. I forced a laugh. "Can it wait?" "Everyone's here, it can't," my mother said sweetly. Her fingers dug into my arm. "Now." She began steering me toward the house, toward the porch, toward the woman. With every step, my chest tightened. The farmhouse loomed larger, its windows dark, watching. I remembered playing here as a child, how the house always felt too quiet inside, even when it was full, how some rooms were always locked for storage, how my mother never liked me wandering alone. As we climbed the porch steps, the woman stepped forward. Up close, she was older than I'd thought. Lines creased her face, not from laughter but from restraint. Her eyes, my God, her eyes were unsettlingly familiar. Same shape as mine, same sharp edge. My mother stopped beside her and finally dropped the smile. "You're here," she said flatly. The woman nodded. "You said it was time." My stomach dropped. "Time for what?" My mother turned to me. For the first time that day, she didn't look like my mother. She looked like someone bracing for impact. "There's something you need to hear," she said, "and you need to hear it from both of us." I stepped back instinctively. "From her? I don't even know who she is." The woman's lips trembled. She took a step toward me, then stopped, as if afraid to cross an invisible line. "You don't know me," she said softly, "but I've known you your entire life." A roar filled my ears. "That's not possible." My mother sighed, rubbing her temple. "Let's go inside." "No," I snapped, louder than I meant to. Conversations nearby faltered. A few heads turned. "You don't get to drag me somewhere and drop cryptic bombs like this." The woman inhaled sharply. "She deserves to know." My mother shot her a warning look. We agreed she wouldn't be ambushed," the woman said, her voice cracking. "And that's exactly what this is." My knees felt weak. "Someone please explain what's happening." Silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then my mother spoke, her voice low and controlled. "She thinks she's your mother," she said, gesturing toward the woman. The world tilted violently. I laughed, an ugly, broken sound. "That's ridiculous." The woman's eyes filled with tears. I shook my head hard. "No, No, you're not. My mother crossed her arms. Biologically, she said. She is. The word hit me like a physical blow. Biologically. The oak tree creaked in the distance as wind caught its branches. Somewhere, a child laughed. Plates clinked. Life went on. I felt like I was falling through the floorboards. You're lying, I whispered. This is some kind of joke. The woman reached into her bag with trembling hands. I brought proof. My mother snapped. Not here. Too late. The woman pulled out a folded envelope, yellowed with age. Hospital logos stamped the corner, a date that made my heart stop. My birth date. I gave birth to you, she said through tears. And then they took you away. I staggered back, my shoulder hitting the porch railing. Who took me? My mother's face hardened. I did, she said. The crowd behind us had gone quiet. Too quiet. I could feel eyes on my back, breath held, waiting for the next line in the play. Why? I demanded, my voice shaking. Why would you do that? My mother opened her mouth, and suddenly Nadia screamed. She's collapsing. The woman swayed, clutching her chest, the envelope slipping from her fingers. Time fractured. Someone yelled for help. Chairs scraped. Feet pounded. The woman crumpled onto the porch, gasping, her eyes locked on mine as if begging me not to look away. My mother froze. And in that moment, right before everything shattered, I realized something terrifying. This reunion wasn't about telling me the truth. It was about forcing it, and whatever came next would change every name I'd ever called family. The scream ripped through the reunion like a gunshot. For a second, nobody moved, like our bodies needed permission to react. Then, everything happened at once. Someone shouted for water. Another yelled to call an ambulance. Chairs toppled. Plates crashed to the ground. Children started crying because the adults were suddenly crying too. I dropped to my knees beside the woman, my biological mother. My brain whispered even though I wasn't ready to accept it. She was pale now, terrifyingly pale, her lips tinged blue. Her chest rose in shallow, uneven bursts, like she was fighting the air itself. Hey, stay with me, I said, my hands hovering uselessly over her shoulders because I didn't know if I was allowed to touch her. Please, breathe. Her eyes found mine instantly, like they'd been searching for me all along. I didn't want this, she gasped. I didn't want, like this. My throat burned. What's happening? What's wrong with you? Her fingers curled around my wrist, shockingly cold. Your heart, she whispered. You have my heart. What? The word barely made it out. My mother stood a few feet away, frozen stiff, her face drained of color. For the first time in my life, she looked afraid. Not worried, not angry, but genuinely afraid. Stop talking, she snapped at the woman. You're not helping. The woman wheezed out a weak laugh, still controlling, even now. My head spun. Someone explain. I begged, please. An uncle knelt on the other side, fumbling with his phone. Ambulance is on the way, he said, his voice tight. 5 minutes. 5 minutes felt like a lifetime and a blink at the same time. The woman's grip tightened. Listen to me, she said urgently. They told me I wouldn't survive another episode. Tears blurred my vision. Episode of what? She swallowed hard. My heart. The word echoed in my skull. I had a rare condition, she continued, each word costing her breath. It worsened after childbirth. I needed a transplant. My chest constricted painfully. And I, my mother said suddenly, her voice sharp, had a perfectly healthy newborn. The porch seemed to tilt toward her accusation. The woman squeezed her eyes shut. You promised me, she whispered. You promised you'd tell her when she was old enough. I promised to keep her alive, my mother shot back. Alive. The pieces slammed together with sickening force. No, I said, shaking my head violently. No, that's not possible. The woman opened her eyes again, tears spilling freely now. They said your heart was a perfect match. Rare. A miracle. My stomach churned. You're saying you were adopted, my mother cut in flatly. Legally. After you took her heart? I screamed. The entire porch fell silent. My mother's jaw clenched. It was a transplant, medically approved. The woman sobbed. I didn't know at first. They told me my baby didn't survive. My breath hitched painfully. They lied, she whispered. For years. The oak tree creaked again in the distance, its branches groaning like it was protesting the truth spilling beneath it. I found out by accident, the woman continued. Medical records. A sealed file. Your name changed, but the date, the markers. My legs felt numb. Why come now? I asked weakly. Why here? Her gaze flicked to my mother. Because she invited me. My head snapped up. You did what? My mother exhaled sharply, finally breaking. I couldn't keep it buried anymore, she said. Not after the tests. What tests? I demanded. She hesitated, just long enough for dread to bloom. The doctors found scarring, she admitted. Early signs of rejection. The word detonated inside me. Rejection. My hands flew to my chest instinctively, like I could physically hold my heart in place. You're sick? I whispered. We don't know yet, my mother said quickly. It could be nothing. The woman laughed weakly. Or it could be everything. The ambulance siren wailed in the distance, growing louder, slicing through the afternoon like a blade. The woman's grip on me loosened. Panic surged. No, stay with me, I begged, clutching her hand now, not caring who saw. Please. She smiled at me then, really smiled, and it shattered something deep inside my chest. You have my eyes, she said softly. Did you know that? I choked on a sob. I don't even know your name. Sophia, she whispered. My name is Sophia. I pressed my forehead to her hand. Sophia, I don't understand any of this. You don't have to, she said. Not yet. The paramedics burst onto the porch, efficient and brisk, pushing people aside. Oxygen mask, stretcher, rapid questions. As they lifted Sophia, she reached for me again. Promise me something, she said. Yes, I sobbed. Anything. Don't let them rewrite the truth again. My mother flinched like she'd been struck. They rushed Sophia away, the stretcher bumping down the steps, the crowd parting in stunned silence. I followed until my mother's hand clamped around my arm. Stay, she ordered. I shook her off violently. Don't touch me. Her eyes filled with tears. I did this to save you. You did this to save yourself, I screamed. The ambulance doors slammed shut, siren blaring. And then they were gone. The reunion was destroyed, food untouched, laughter dead, families whispering in horrified clusters. The oak tree stood watch, its ribbon fluttering wildly now, as if celebrating chaos. Nadia approached slowly, her face pale. I tried to warn you. I collapsed onto the porch steps, my entire body shaking. My heart, I whispered, my whole life. Nadia sat beside me. Truth doesn't come quietly in families like ours. I stared at my hands, suddenly foreign to me. I'd arrived at this reunion as someone's daughter, and left the porch not knowing whose blood truly defined me, or how long the borrowed beat in my chest would last. That night, the farmhouse felt smaller than it ever had. The reunion ended early, not officially, no announcements, no goodbyes, but like a storm that simply sucks the air out of a place and leaves debris behind. Cars pulled away quietly. Voices dropped to whispers. The oak tree stood alone again, its red ribbon twisting like a wound that refused to close. I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe because leaving felt like surrender. Maybe because I needed answers more than air. Inside the house, the lights were too bright, exposing every crack in the walls, every stain on the carpet that decades of cleaning had never erased. The smell of food lingered, sickly sweet now, clinging to my clothes. I sat at the dining table, staring at the wood grain, tracing the same knot over and over with my finger like it might ground me. My mother moved around the kitchen silently. No clattering dishes. No sharp comments, just the soft hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the clock that suddenly sounded accusatory. Tick, tick, tick. How long? I asked finally, my voice hoarse. She didn't turn around. How long what? How long did you know Sophia was alive? Her shoulders stiffened. I didn't know at first. That's not what I asked. She exhaled slowly as if preparing for surgery without anesthesia. 17 years. 17. The word landed heavier than everything else. You watched me grow up, I said. Graduate, get sick, fall in love, break apart. And you knew. She turned then, tears streaking her face. I watched you live. At her expense I shot back. Silence stretched between us, thick and bitter. She agreed, my mother said quietly. Eventually, I laughed, sharp and broken. You think consent given under lies counts? She flinched. You don't understand what it's like to be told your child will die without something only another woman can give. And you don't understand what it's like to wake up one day and realize your heartbeat belongs to someone else, I snapped. She looked away. I pushed back from the table and stood, my legs trembling. I need to see the records. Her head snapped up. No. Now, I said. The word surprised us both. She hesitated, then nodded once. Follow me. We walked down the narrow hallway, past family photos that suddenly felt staged, props in a story I'd never been allowed to read. Baby pictures. Birthday cakes. Smiles that now looked rehearsed. She stopped in front of a door I'd never been allowed to open as a child. Storage, she'd always said. Nothing important. She unlocked it. The room smelled like paper and dust and secrets. File boxes lined the walls, envelopes stacked neatly, labeled in careful handwriting. My name, my legal name, written again and again. I opened a box with shaking hands, medical reports, consent forms, redacted pages, a birth certificate stamped amended. I found the transplant file last. Sophia's name. My breath caught. There it was in black and white. Dates, surgeons, risk assessments, notes about ethical considerations, a paragraph circled in red ink, donor mother not to be informed of child's survival. My vision blurred. You stole both of us, I whispered. My mother sank onto a chair. I saved you. No, I said quietly. You rewrote us. A knock echoed through the house. We froze. Another knock, firmer this time. My heart slammed against my ribs. I opened the door to find Nadia standing there, her face tight with urgency. She coded, she said softly. At the hospital. The room spun. I'm driving, she continued. You're coming with me. I didn't look back at my mother as I grabbed my coat. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Monitors beeped. Shoes squeaked against polished floors. A doctor met us in the hallway, his face grave. She's stable for now, he said, but her condition is critical. I pressed my hand to my chest, feeling the steady rhythm beneath my palm. I need to see her, I said. Sophia lay pale against white sheets, tubes snaking from her body like lifelines. Machines breathed for her, watched for her, counted the seconds she had left. I took her hand carefully. I'm here, I whispered. I didn't run. Her eyes fluttered open. She smiled faintly. You came, she murmured. Of course I did. She studied my face like she was memorizing it. They can't take it back, she said. Take what back? Our truth. Tears spilled freely now. I don't know who I am anymore. You are the bridge, she said softly, between what was taken and what survived. Her grip tightened unexpectedly. Promise me, if it rejects, you won't let them blame you. I promise. She exhaled, peaceful for a moment. In that sterile room, surrounded by machines and lies finally exposed, I understood something. Devastating and profound, the locked rooms in that farmhouse weren't just doors. They were choices. And some choices echo through generations, beating quietly inside another person's chest until one day they demand to be heard. I stayed at the hospital that night. I told Nadia to go home when dawn began leaking through the windows, painting the corridors a tired gray. She argued at first, but one look at my face made her stop. I'll come back, she said. You won't be alone. But I already was. Hospitals have a way of shrinking time. Minutes stretch into hours. Hours fold into themselves. I sat beside Sophia's bed listening to machines breathe for her, counting the rise and fall of her chest like it was something I could control if I concentrated hard enough. Every beep felt personal. Every silence felt like a threat. At some point, my phone buzzed. My mother's name lit up the screen. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Then another. Then a text. "Please talk to me." I turned the phone face down. For the first time in my life, I let her voice exist without responding to it. A nurse came in quietly to check Sophia's vitals. She smiled at me gently. "You can get some rest in the family room." "I'm fine," I said automatically. She nodded, like she knew that was a lie people told themselves to stay upright. When she left, I leaned closer to Sophia. Her breathing was steadier now, but fragile, like a glass ornament hanging from a thin string. "I don't know how to do this," I whispered. "I don't know how to be your daughter." Her eyes didn't open, but her fingers twitched in mine. "I don't know how to be hers anymore either," I added, my throat tightening. Or if I ever was. The words felt dangerous once spoken, like admitting gravity existed. Sometime after noon, the doctor returned. "We need to talk," he said gently. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. "We're seeing signs of acute rejection," he continued. "Your heart." My hand flew to my chest again, instinctive, panicked. "What does that mean?" "It means your immune system is attacking the transplant," he said carefully. "Stress can trigger it." I laughed weakly. "Then I'm doomed." He didn't smile. "We're adjusting your medication. But we need to prepare for possibilities." "Like what?" My voice barely held, like another transplant. The room tilted. "There isn't time," he added. "And donors, I know," I interrupted. "I know how rare it is." Sophia stirred then, her eyes fluttering open as if summoned by the truth. "No," she croaked weakly. The doctor paused, surprised. "No," she repeated, clearer now. "Not again." He hesitated. "You need to rest." She shook her head slowly. "You can't. Take from her." I squeezed her hand. "Stop. Please." She turned her head toward me, eyes blazing with an intensity that shocked me. "I gave it once because I didn't know," she whispered. "I won't give it twice." Tears streamed down my face. "I don't want that. I don't want any of this." The doctor cleared his throat. "We'll monitor closely," he said. "For now." After he left, silence rushed back in. Sophia studied my face. "She told you everything?" "Yes." "Did she tell you," Sophia asked softly, "that I tried to find you?" My chest tightened. "She said you agreed to disappear." Sophia laughed, a sad, brittle sound. I agreed to stop looking when they threatened to revoke my care. Anger burned white-hot in my veins. "They said I was unstable," she continued. "That knowing you'd survived would undo me." She looked at me then, eyes searching. "But I always knew." "Knew what?" "That you were alive." She smiled faintly. A mother knows when her child's heart is still beating. Something broke open inside me then. All my life I'd felt watched. Not in a paranoid way, but like an echo following me. Like I wasn't alone even when I was. I'd told myself it was anxiety. It wasn't. That afternoon my mother finally showed up. I saw her reflection first in the glass, older somehow, smaller. She stood frozen in the doorway, hands clenched, eyes rimmed red. Sophia's gaze hardened instantly. "You shouldn't be here," Sophia said. My mother stepped inside anyway. "I came to see how she is," she said quietly. Sophia scoffed. "You came to see if your secret survived." I stood up, my legs shaky, but my voice steady. "Stop, both of you." They looked at me, startled. "I'm the one whose heart is failing," I said. "I'm the one who gets to speak." My mother flinched. "I spent my whole life trying to be perfect for you," I said to her, because somewhere deep down, I felt like I had to earn my place. Her lips trembled. "You never had to earn anything." "You made me," I snapped. "Every day." I turned to Sophia. "And I don't know you," I said, tears spilling. "But I feel you. in ways I don't understand. Sophia's eyes softened. I don't want a replacement, Mother, I continued. I don't want a villain and a saint. I want the truth. The room held its breath. My mother sank into a chair. I was afraid, she admitted. Afraid you'd leave. Afraid you'd hate me. I don't hate you, I said quietly, but I don't forgive you either. She nodded, tears falling freely now. Sophia closed her eyes, exhausted. I'm tired, she whispered. I sat back beside her, holding her hand. That night, alarms went off. Nurses ran. Doctors shouted orders. I was pushed aside as Sophia's heart faltered, her body fighting itself. I stood there helpless, feeling my own heart stutter in my chest, its rhythm suddenly foreign, borrowed, fragile. As they worked to stabilize her, I realized something terrifying and clear. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about ownership, about whether a life saved at the cost of another's truth could ever truly belong to the person living it. And deep inside my chest, my heart seemed to echo the question back at me, louder, faster, like it was running out of time. I thought I understood fear. I'd been afraid before, of failure, of loneliness, of disappointing people who measured love in expectations. But that night in the hospital taught me a different kind of fear. The kind that sits in your chest and asks a single brutal question. If one heart must stop, whose life deserves to continue? The alarms screamed until they didn't. Doctors moved fast, voices clipped, practiced. I was guided into a chair against the wall like fragile furniture, something in the way, something that might collapse if touched too hard. I watched through glass as they worked on Sophia. My hands were shaking uncontrollably, not from cold, from the unbearable awareness of every beat inside my chest. I could feel it now, too loud, too present, like it wanted credit for every second I was still standing. I pressed my palm over my heart. I didn't ask for you, I whispered. It didn't answer. It just kept beating. After what felt like hours, the doors opened. The doctor walked toward me slowly, and in that moment I knew, before he spoke, that nothing would ever be the same again. She's stable, he said. For now. My knees buckled. I grabbed the wall to stay upright, but he continued gently, her heart is failing. There's nothing more we can do surgically. The words landed softly and shattered everything. When? I asked. He hesitated. Soon. Days. Maybe less. I nodded like I understood, like my world hadn't just split cleanly down the middle. When I was allowed back in the room, Sophia was awake. She looked peaceful in a way that terrified me, like someone who had already made their peace with the ending. You look like you've been running, she said faintly. I sat beside her and laughed through tears. Feels like it. She studied me carefully. They told you. Yes. She nodded once. No denial. No drama. I always knew this would be borrowed time, she said. I just didn't expect to meet you first. I swallowed hard. I don't know how to lose you. You won't, she said softly. You already have me. She reached for my chest, resting her hand there, light as a promise. Right here. Something broke loose then. Years of confusion, of feeling misplaced, of wondering why my reflection never quite matched my roots. I'm angry, I admitted. At both of you. At the world. At my own body. She smiled gently. Good. Anger means you're alive. I hesitated. Do you regret it? Giving me your heart? Her eyes sharpened instantly. Never. But it cost you. It gave me you, she interrupted. Even if I didn't get to raise you. Her breathing grew shallow. I leaned closer. There's something you need to do, she whispered. Anything. When I'm gone, she said, don't let this become a secret again. I shook my head fiercely. I won't. Tell your story, she continued, all of it. The ugly parts. The parts that make people uncomfortable. Tears slid down my face. Why? Because silence is how this happened, she said, and truth is how it ends. I nodded, choking. I promise. She smiled, really smiled, then closed her eyes. 2 days later, Sophia died just before sunrise. There was no dramatic crash, no alarms, just a quiet slowing, like a candle reaching the end of its wick. I was holding her hand when it happened. I felt it, not physically, but somewhere deeper, like a door closing gently instead of slamming shut. At the funeral, the oak tree waited, the same tree from the reunion, the same red ribbon, now replaced with white flowers that trembled in the breeze. Family gathered again, but this time there was no pretending. I stood beneath the tree and spoke. I told them everything, about the heart, about the lies, about the locked rooms and rewritten truths. Some people cried. Some looked away. Some were angry. My mother stood at the back, tears streaming freely, no longer the center of anything. Afterward, she approached me cautiously. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said, "but I want to know, do you still consider me your mother?" I thought about the woman who raised me, the woman who lied, the woman who loved me fiercely, imperfectly, selfishly. "I consider you part of my story," I said honestly, "not the author." She nodded, broken but accepting. Weeks later, my health stabilized. The rejection slowed. The doctors called it resilience. I called it inheritance. Because Sophia didn't just give me a heart. She gave me truth. Now, when I press my hand to my chest, I don't feel borrowed life anymore. I feel shared life, a reminder that love doesn't always look like sacrifice wrapped in heroism. Sometimes it looks like pain that refuses to stay buried. Sometimes it looks like a whisper at a family reunion that finally breaks generations of silence. And sometimes, when you're brave enough to face the unthinkable, it looks like a heart choosing honesty over fear. Beating, still, for me.